Animal Crossing, the quirky little life sim all of us have heard of by now. You've probably seen all the brutal dialogue pictures, the Tom Nook loan shark memes, and the ugly villager roasts. But has anyone considered why this series about living in the middle of nowhere and talking to little animals has retained such a fan base over the years? Maybe those silly little animals is the reason why? It's obvious that communication is a key feature in the series, so the main draw of the games is the NPCs and villagers, right? But why are these characters so beloved? Why do people keep on returning year after year? The communication theme has been a part of the series since the original game on the Nintendo 64. Creator Katsuya Gucci thought up the idea after moving to Kyoto from Chiba, around 300 miles away. Obviously, moving that far away from your hometown is going to make you feel lonely, so Iguchi wanted to replicate that feeling in a game where you move to a small town of strange animals that speak differently than you, a game where you start fresh from scratch and have to build new relationships with core themes of community, friendship, and family. This became known as Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest, in Japan. In a developer interview from 2003, Iguchi talks about how Animal Crossing started as a family-friendly communication game that, while entertaining, can also be a sort of practice for kids as well. If you're rude to the villagers, they get mad and are rude back. How you interact with the villagers has consequences. Also, in a developers conference, Shigeru Miyamoto talked about the Animal Crossing series and how the communication with the villagers creates new experiences and benefits for the players, like more items and clothing. The more players talk to their villagers, the more they're rewarded. Simple, but an important part of the gameplay loop for a communication game like Animal Crossing. Character attachment is something common in almost all video games, and one reliant on dialogue like Animal Crossing is bound to have players form bonds with the NPCs. Studies on this have defined character attachment as the sense of liking, connection, and closeness a player feels to any in-game character. You can see this in the form of villager hunting, a term popularized recently with the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons, where players go from island to island to find the villager they're looking for. This process can take hours, days even. In a study conducted by researchers at the University of Basel in Switzerland, it was found that the reasons why gamers become attached to characters can be organized into 7 categories: feeling empowered by a character's abilities, feeling respect or awe for a villain, looking up to or admiring a character, a crush, concern for a character's well-being, sympathy for a character going through shared experiences, and a trusted close friend. In all of the games, conversing with your villager neighbors is a main part of the game, and as the player talks more and more with their villagers, new conversation topics open up, and villagers start asking you to do tasks for them. Progress further with a villager, and you can set up meetups with them either at your house or theirs. These planned meetings are a big part of the relationship aspect of the games, and I know for me, I would make reminders when my villagers ask to hang out later that day, and I'm sure many other players have done the same. These simple yet realistic aspects of communication keep players interested with every new villager that moves in. Gift giving has been added to create even more conversation material and relationship growth. Each villager has specific themes and colors that they enjoy, so the player has to learn about these interests by talking to them more, further strengthening the relationship in the game and out of it. From this study, it's safe to assume that most Animal Crossing players grow a relationship with an NPCs through the trusted close friend attachment type. The constant conversations and gift giving with villagers makes that very easy as well. Now that we know how players become attached to the NPCs, is this the reason why people return to the series year after year? A study was done at Carnegie Mellon University on why Animal Crossing fans continue to play New Horizons, the newest installment on the Nintendo Switch. Because Animal Crossing is a life sim series where you build up your town over time, player retention is already much higher than the average linear or story-based game. But what the study found was that the most popular features within New Horizons was island customization, completing the museum, and villager recruitment in that order. Players would return to the game to try out new updates, update their island design, or to see their villagers. So from this, we can see that players value the importance of the villagers in the game, but the villagers aren't the main reason why people play. In fact, it seems that island customization is slightly more important than the villagers, which has been a slow change as each new game releases. So, what is the future of Animal Crossing? Will it continue to be a communication-based game? Is the communication aspect being sidelined for the customization and designing features? For population growing, wild world, and city folk, customization was minimized to clothing items for the player, and designing was relegated to just their house. Many fans also consider these three games as having the strongest dialogue and communication features. For New Leaf on the 3DS, the players were given the luxury of choosing where their houses were and could place specific outdoor items called public works projects. This was also coupled with players having a higher range of clothing items and ways to express themselves. But unfortunately, some fans have complained about the villagers being too nice and having repeated dialogue in New Leaf. While the villagers certainly stopped reacting as aggressively towards being treated rudely, there was still plenty of dialogue to keep players entertained and enticed. For New Horizons, the customization and design aspects were improved upon even more. There was a significant increase of items in general, with each item having different customization options. The biggest additions towards designing in New Horizons was terraforming and the ability to place any furniture item outside. Players now had the option of changing the actual landscape of their town, which previously was completely rigid and furniture could only be placed inside player homes. New Horizons also streamlined the process of customizing your character. Instead of going to a salon and answering questions, players now simply open a menu and choose whatever they like. While many see this as an improvement, the previous way of character customization created more conversations and enhanced the sense of community for the player. And finally, onto the most important part, the conversations with the villagers. Compared to New Leaf, many more fans have complained about the villager dialogue and how lacking it is compared to previous games. Villagers ask for requests less often and stop talking to you sooner after repeated attempts. The reduced emphasis on conversation could be why villagers aren't the main reason why players continue to play. With the unlimited options that come with customization and designing, the communication aspects lack in comparison. Animal Crossing is a unique genre of games that consist of single-player life sims but have the effect on players similar to a multiplayer game. The interactions with the NPCs allows players to escape into their own world where there are similarities to real life but without the hardship. The games have a cozy feeling about a simplified life of just making friends, doing tasks around a small town, and living life at your own pace one day at a time. The villagers have been beloved for over 2 decades, and hopefully they continue to be of importance for future games. With the way the Animal Crossing series has been progressing, it's unclear if Nintendo will continue to focus on its roots and make the next installment a communication-focused life sim again. But it's still likely fans of the series will continue to play the games no matter which direction the series goes.